From 2018 through 2019, Milwaukee saw something which it hadn't seen in nearly 4 decades. Both the Milwaukee Brewers and the Milwaukee Bucks made it to the playoffs, and they both nearly won an elusive world championship. Powered by MVPs Christian Yelich
has done it again!
And Giannis Antetokounmpo, Milwaukee arguably became the place to be a sports fan, seemingly overnight, and to the surprise of the entire nation. No longer was Milwaukee a place where you could write off its teams as you could for most of the past 20 years. Milwaukee re-entered the national spotlight with our sport and came out with a desire to show the world for the first time in almost 50 years that Milwaukee could win it all. But can we get over our past shortcomings and overcome the hurdles which are currently in our way? For 103 combined seasons, the Bucks and the Brewers have called the Cream City home, and yet only one world championship exists between them. The Bucks' 1971 NBA World Championship Series win over the now defunct Baltimore Bullets. To put that into perspective, in 1971, there were only 17 NBA teams compared to today's 30. Giannis was 23 years from being born. The Jackson 5 were performing at Summerfest, and the Bucks were only 3 years into their existence, making them the fastest NBA team ever to win a championship after being created. Since then, the Bucks have only made the NBA Finals one more time, and the Bucks' most recent deep playoff run with Giannis at the helm was the first time they had made it to the Eastern Conference Finals in nearly 20 years. And as for the Brewers, well, despite never winning the World Series, they did make it to the Fall Classic in 1982 against their now division rivals, the St. Louis Cardinals, where they lost the series 3-4. While this appearance came 13 seasons into the Brewers' 51-season history as a franchise, it is still the farthest they have ever made it, with their 2018 postseason run led by Yelich, leaving them just one game short of their second World Series appearance. One of the easiest ways to see why Milwaukee wants a championship is to simply look at how we stack up to other cities. Of the 37 North American cities which have a major sports team, Milwaukee is currently tied for last with 7 other cities who have just one. And don't even try looking to the south to our neighbors in Chicago, as they are ranked 3rd with 27 championships from across all of the leagues. And when looking at this list, it's also easy to notice that Milwaukee is simply one of the smallest cities on the list. And this is one of the easiest ways to write off Milwaukee's championship shortcomings. We are an infamous small market. Small market teams are generally defined as teams which play in an area with a small population compared to other major teams. The label typically carries the negative connotation of the team being less successful due to making less money through its brand, stadium, and market, which in turn could be spent on better players, staff, and facilities. This theory that a bigger market equals a better team certainly holds some weight when it comes to the leagues that Milwaukee has. Only about 18% of World Series and about 14% of NBA Finals have been won by a small market team, and the Brewers and the Bucks are some of the smallest market teams out there, at both last and 27th out of 30 respectively. In spite of this label, Milwaukee fans have turned the small market tag into something of a challenge. And what better way to overcome being a small market than by giving your team more money? In 2019, Forbes calculated the average revenue per fan for the Bucks at 12th and the Brewers at 2nd place, only behind the large market San Francisco Giants. And when looking at Chicago from this respect, which is the 4th largest market in both the NBA and MLB, the stats lean much more in our favor. The Bucks generated more than twice the revenue per fan as the Bulls, and the Brewers generated nearly as much as Cubs and White Sox fans combined. Then there's how many Milwaukeeans actually come out to see these teams play. The Brewers ranked 8th in 2019 in terms of attendance number, beating out every other small market team, being nearly 1,000 fans short of beating the previous year's World Series champs, the Boston Red Sox, in this category. And while the Bucks' attendance was ranked 17th, it was about as high as it could possibly go, with the Fiserv Forum averaging 101.5% tickets sold and ranking number 2 in the league in terms of percentage sold. However, the small market label and our embracing of it reflects perhaps the biggest reason we want a championship, and that's to help change the discussion around Milwaukee. Lori Nickel, sports writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, explains, "Sports teams, give a place an image. And while Milwaukee will always be an underdog in the NBA and the MLB, simply due to how small of a market they are, and although an NBA championship or a World Series win would help to distinguish us from other cities, it also creates an opportunity for change. Sports have always been the common denominator between people, and in our city, as diverse as it is, individuals of different backgrounds all rooting for one team to win a championship, and the individuals which lead those teams which inspire them, like Giannis and Yelich, creates an opportunity for dialogue, an opportunity for individuals to interact with one another when they typically wouldn't, and possibly create change from that.